is a Think, Live, Be production.
3, 2, 1. Seeking the best, being my best. Do do da 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 da. Seeking the best, seeking the best, seeking the best, best, best,
Welcome to Seeking the Best. This is our podcast for growth-minded real estate agents seeking clarity, focus, and a better way forward. I'm your host, Kathryn Stelgis, and sitting across from me is my co-host, Patrick Fatika, our sound engineer, producer extraordinaire.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are getting started early.
In the morning, for real.
For reals this time. Sometimes we say good morning, and it's not morning.
Well, because I'm saying good morning to our listeners who are listening in the morning.
Right. I wonder if there's a way to track that to know
what time? No, I don't think so.
Most people probably do listen in the morning.
Yeah.
Like I listen to podcasts on my way into the office, or I don't really listen to podcasts while I'm working out because I don't never work out. I'm just kidding. But no, that's not really when I listen to it. But sometimes people do. I do understand that. And so it's probably early morning for you. We're going to talk about real estate as per usual. and this season specifically, we're going over all the lessons, not all, but we're going to cover as many as we think is appropriate. How about that? And all the lessons I've learned the hard way, so that you don't have to. That is our goal, is to give you some information from a seasoned professional who has made a lot of mistakes, and like just listening to other people who've come before you to say, hey, maybe don't do it that way.
Yeah.
That's not going to get you there faster.
Learn from my experience.
Yeah. Learn. I hope that somebody, even if just like one person learns from one of these episodes, that's a win.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's caused a lot of heartache. I always say, like, there's no crying in real estate. And I've said that to
people while they're crying.
People. Yes. No, but I've had administrative people on my team before.
I've had agents too.
Agents. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Lots
agents. And listen, I'm not saying that I haven't gotten emotional before, but never at the office.
Yeah.
Except maybe once. Actually, I just remembered one time I did have a little bit of a breakdown. One time in 20 years, though. I don't bring it to the office. I bring it home to Patrick. He gets
Hooray for me.
He gets the brunt of all that. But no, I don't. I get more angry and frustrated than I do sad about things.
Yeah.
And
yeah, well, because, there's not...
My emotions don't come out in tears.
No, because you have enough experience to know that your decision making is in the right. So when somebody gets upset or pissed off or whatever it happens to be, you're right. So that just makes you angry. And when I'm talking, you know what I mean? Versus being sad, like because somebody said, because you messed up or because whatever, somebody hung up on you. It's like, that's not a thing. You're not going to get upset at that. You're going to get angry because another agent or a client is not respecting your experience and knowledge, or isn't taking your advice because of XYZ or whatever those things are. That can make you angry.
But that's today. Like when I was a newer agent, I didn't have the experience or necessarily all the knowledge. So there was still moments of frustration, but my emotions and intensity come out more as frustration of like,
right. Yeah.
I don't want this to happen again. Like, what do I need to do? Is there a pattern to change this, et cetera? Whereas there are people and personalities where they get
frustrated but don't know what to do, and it comes out in tears.
It comes out in tears and upset about how somebody else handled something. And I guess I look at it and I'm like, well, that person, like, why did that person handle it that way? Like, if you got yelled at, that's not necessarily something that that you did wrong.
Yeah.
Or even if you did make a mistake, who's the person that yells at you?
Yeah, that person, yes. And
that's
so
the person with the problem.
you turn it around on them and stuff, and don't let, what went through their life today or in the past that brought those emotions out that they can't control.
Yeah.
Like,
so I'm more always looking at there's no crying in real estate. So in these situations, these stories that I've been telling.
And we've been saying that if you go back and listen to, I think the first year of this show, we were saying no crying in real estate when Kayla was still on the show.
Yeah. And these lessons that I tell you, like some of these experiences some of these are more difficult than others, and some of them are just learning lessons 100%, and some of them were like emotionally hard situations. But none of them brought me to tears. They were more like, okay, how do I make this better? Because I don't want to do that again. And that's really what I hope for everybody else is like, listen to these things and build better plans so that you don't sit in the same room banging your head against the wall, just like I did.
If you make a mistake or there's a hole in the system or whatever it happens to be, acknowledge it. And then how do I fix it and make it better? Right. Mm-hmm. And you do that over and over again. That's what experience is. That's what experience is.
Yeah.
It's like, so a lot of these problems and issues, I'm sure will resonate with listeners, and if it doesn't, because none of this has happened to you, it will. Something like this will happen. So, you're just going to have, this will be a good learning experience for you to maybe see something like this happening in your life, and then how do I fix it? How do I make it so that doesn't happen again?
Or what does this mean? Like if I go on, I'm going to talk through today about some different appointment lessons. And so if you hear one of these and it's like, well, that sounds crazy, and it's something to look out for. There's a pattern in some of these, there's a pattern in all of these stories that it's just now your ears are maybe going to be perked up when you hear
tuned to it.
Yeah.
Sure.
When you hear the other party say XYZ, then you say, oh, I remember that episode that Kathryn talked about this.
And that's what we're hoping for. Yeah. that you remember the episode before it happens to you. So do you want to get started?
Sure.
Okay.
So there's this feeling that you get when somebody agrees to meet with you that is this excitement. Like I can't even really describe it. You're just like, you feel like you've won and you get really excited about the prospect of having a listing taken or a buyer taken. And so in that moment, if you don't know your scripts, dialogues to know what to say next, you may not pre-qualify or ask any other questions. And I know I've had many, many instances over the years where that's happened because the excitement overtakes everything. I found myself sitting in a house once where I was on a listing appointment, and I went to the door and I knocked on the door, and immediately within about 2 seconds of entering, the seller said, "Hey, I just popped a Valium, so take a look around. Let me know what you think." I remember thinking, oh, I don't even know. Can I even get this guy to sign paperwork? Like, he just told me he's about to be on a pretty strong drug. And so I walked around the house. I did the tour, and I come back to the living room and I find him relaxing, like full recline on a recliner. Like, where you pull the little handle and then the bottom part pops out and you're basically laying down in a sleeping position. And I found myself sitting in that living room attempting to do a listing consultation with this person and thinking in the moment, what am I doing? How did I get here? What's the point? And it turned out I was right. I didn't take that listing, if you can believe it or not, because I don't even think he was listening. And as we all know now, like listing consultations are really more about questions and asking their goals and all of these things. But when you have somebody who's basically checked out, you're not really getting any response. So I didn't take that listing. I had this listing once that had this beautiful landscaping. The house itself was really not anything special. It was kind of a 1950s ranch. They had done some updating. And actually, that was the first time I ever heard of Faro and Ball paint. These people had painted their kitchen with Faro and Ball. And that's sort of a high-end paint. And so everything was this custom detail, but at the same time, it felt very, very basic inside. But the landscaping was just amazing. There were all these big, giant, expensive palms and big rocks like lava rock, coquina, all kinds of different things. But again, this was like a very normal ranch neighborhood, so it was kind of weird. It was a very unique situation where I had to try to sell this property and position it in such a way that you're paying a premium for all of these luxury things that they've put into it, but at the end of the day, it's in this sort of basic neighborhood. I remember getting a call from a couple that wanted to see it. And at the time, I had started doing loyalty agreements. This was before buyer-broker agreements. And loyalty agreements allowed you to at least get a commitment from the other party that they were going to work with you exclusively. And these people, they wanted to see that house. They didn't want to see multiple houses. They were very locked in on that neighborhood. And I have made that mistake more than once. This one just stands out. Maybe it's because of the landscaping of the house and that it was my own listing. But I bent my rules and allowed them to see the property without doing a consultation. So I met them on an evening. It was like a weekday evening, 5:30. And I remember this one particularly, besides the landscaping, I was there a really long time. I mean, they looked at everything and then walked through again and again, and they seemed to really like it. And so I thought, wow, okay, cool. Maybe I will double side this deal. Maybe these people will buy this house. And so after a 2-hour showing, not getting home probably till about 8 o'clock at night, I went on the next day to call them to follow up on their thoughts and feedback and go from there. And they didn't answer the call. And they didn't answer the call. And they didn't answer the call. They didn't answer the call. They didn't answer the call. And they didn't answer the call. And I emailed, called, texted, multiple times. I don't remember exactly how many attempts I made, but let's just say that these people had ghosted me. They never responded, not a single time. And looking back on it now, I'm like, well, why did I do that? That was so dumb. I bent my rules for these people. But at the time, they seemed like normal people. They seemed like good, honest people that would not have done that. But as you can imagine, I did eventually sell that house, just not to those people. One day I found myself in a listing appointment where I was sitting in the kitchen with this woman who seemed like a sweet lady. But the problem with that appointment was that there was somebody missing. Her husband, who also owned the house with her and was a decision maker, he lived there with her, wasn't there. And so I went through the whole listing consultation. I felt like we connected, everything seemed good. And at the end of the consultation, she said that she was going to talk it over with her husband and that they were going to discuss the consultations that they had and make a decision. And so I did my regular follow-up and found out that they had selected another agent. And I always ask, after, if somebody doesn't select me, I always ask, what caused you to go with the other agent? I just want, I want to make sure that I'm offering competitive services. I want to know, right? And I remember she said, we just got along really well and connected really well with the other person. I said, oh, okay. So you and your husband were able to meet together with that person. Yeah, and we got along really well. So the husband actually had an opportunity to meet with that person. So of course they made the decision to work with that person. It was the only one that he actually met with. So what happened was I failed to meet with the person who was actually deciding who they were going to work with. There was this one time where I was doing a listing appointment in a very unusual spot. In fact, it's the only time I've ever done a listing appointment sitting like this, and the first and last. And I was literally sitting on the ground. I went to a house to do a listing consultation. And when I arrived, we did the typical walkthrough tour. And when we got done, I went to move towards the table and they said, oh, let's sit in the living room. And we walked into the living room and they both sat in the only chairs available, which left me nowhere to sit except the floor. So I opened my computer and I put it on the coffee table and I sat down on the ground and proceeded to do a listing consultation from the floor, which is not a very comfortable place to do a listing consultation. And also, if you can just imagine two people sort of sitting above you in these big recliners while you're down on the floor, it certainly doesn't feel like a professional, powerful place to be offering your services. It definitely puts you it makes you feel lower physically as well as mentally. I should have known, as I was sitting on the ground, I should have known better. I should have known that this was not going to go the way that it should. Because what I didn't tell you at the beginning was that these people told me on my initial call with them that they were going to be interviewing 8 agents. That alone should have been a red flag to this appointment. And in itself, thinking back on it, just knowing that there were 7 other people that were going to be coming in to interview, there's so many things I know now that I would do differently, but also it's just basically setting yourself up for failure. Just setting aside the fact that then I walked in and had to sit down on the ground and do my presentation. I do wonder if all other 7 of those agents also sat on the ground or if it was just me.
Yeah, I wonder if it was just you or if it was a test that they ran on every single person.
Right?
Will
this dum-dum sit down?
Dummy sit down on the ground?
And I mean,
and it was that was a red flag from the beginning, and all of these stories hearing them again, remembering when they all happened, and they were all such a long time ago. It almost seems like a different lifetime. Mm-hmm. But I do remember each one of those. The one in the time when it was happening, like the last story you told, for example, that just made us mad. It was just kind of like this disrespect that made us mad. But the one where the guy took the Valium and then was like, it's going to hit me in the next 10 minutes and then sat in a lazy boy and kicked when you came home and told me that, I mean, it was so ridiculous. It was like something out of a movie.
Yes, that was the most surreal moment. And in that moment, I asked myself, do I keep going? Like, should I keep going?
And you remember, guys, like these stories. Kathryn's been an agent for 20 years. This was 15 years ago, right? She had a few years experience. Really needed those listings, and you get different than a buyer. It's like, oh, I got a listing appointment. This person found me online, or however they come about, right? And it's like you feel obligated to go and feel obligated to do them, and you're excited to do them. And so a lot of times you just like, oh, I'll break my rules, I'll bend my rules, I'll do whatever, you know what I mean? Because I want this listing. I need a sign in the yard. I want to be able to leverage this into something, and all of the things that go through your head.
And that's all true. These are old stories. But I do think it's worth mentioning that feeling, that excitement, like I still get that, and then have to like remind myself, ooh, wait, hold on, got to ask the pre-qualification questions.
Right, the LP
like,
Mama, right?
Like it still goes through. It's deeper than LP Mama. There's a lot of pre-qualification questions that need to get asked before setting up the experience of the appointment, and I still have to remind myself that. And I also, like, now that I coach other people as well, like I have to tell them, like, it's okay to call back if you forget.
That's a huge one.
It's okay. Like,
it's right?
Don't just set the appointment and say, oh shoot, I forgot to ask, like, will all decision makers be there? Call back.
Yeah.
Call back.
That's such a simple thing, but something that maybe people need to hear, that it's okay for you to do that. You're not going to come off as unprofessional. Look,
if anything, I think the opposite.
That's what I was going to say. It's like you're actually digging in and reviewing, right? You're reviewing your conversation with them. It's not somebody who just, and you need to know, right? You need to know that pre-qual, whatever it is, like, oh, is everybody that's interested in, is the husband going to be there? Is the wife going to be there? Right? So, you need to know these things, and to call back is not a huge deal.
We're going to go out of order, like not specifically back through each one.
Okay.
To go through the lessons, because I want to talk about that real quick. The decision maker one. When I was on that appointment, I do believe that she told me that her husband couldn't be there and that he didn't need to be there, that she was going to meet with all three and then make a decision. She was just going to relay things to him. And I know that there are couples where one person is going to make all the decisions. I know this is true, especially in military families where like the husband or wife is on leave, or not on leave, is like out wherever on active duty. And then the other party is the one making the decisions about where they're going to live while they're gone. That's different. That's different than somebody just saying, well, no, my husband, do you both live in the house? Well, you ask more questions to understand the situation before you just assume that's exactly how it's going to be just because that's what they say. Because what happened in that situation was like, my standard is I meet with all decision makers. you just told me that you're going to sit down with your husband together and make the decision, which means that he should be on the appointment versus, well, no, he's, in Afghanistan or whatever the case may be. And I'm going to make the decision. That's different.
Yeah, because what probably happened, and we'll never know, is the agent that came in right after you, she said the exact same thing to that agent. And that agent said, well, I think it would be best if we all meet together. When is your husband available?
Maybe
you see what I mean?
Could have happened.
And now all of a sudden it's like, because I'm sure the seller used the same thing. Oh, I'm making the decision. I will discuss it with my husband. And they dug a little deeper, or they did whatever and set themselves up for success instead of just saying, okay.
That could be, or it could have just been luck.
Well, yes.
It could have just been luck that he happened to be home at that appointment.
Could be, yeah.
She scheduled 3 appointments. He just happened to be home on that one. It doesn't matter though, because what it really boils down to is it's not important what other agents are doing. You can't control that. All you can control is your system and standard for appointments. And if you say, all decision makers must be present at appointments, that's your standard for going on a listing consultation or having a buyer consultation, then you can't bend that every time you get an opportunity just because you're like, oh, well, it's better for me to go on this than to object and say, well, actually, when could we meet all together, and then lose the opportunity. Like we're all so afraid that we finally have got this, yes, we can come and meet. We're so excited that we've got this opportunity that we're so afraid to lose it.
Yeah.
And so we bend our standards and say, okay, well, she said she's going to make the decision, blah, blah, blah. Don't ask any more questions. And then that's what happens.
Yeah. And it's like it's so easy to throw out the window the standards that you've put in place to avoid these exact things. That's why those standards are there. That's why you do the pre-qualification. It's the reason why is so these things don't happen. And then as soon as there's an opportunity, you throw it all out the window. And it's like, it's why those standards were there to begin with.
Yeah.
If you're not going to use them when it matters, then what's the point of using them at all?
I think that's why, practicing, we get so busy and we think about practicing just as like scripts and dialogues for having lead conversations. And that's true. Part of that is when you've got an appointment opportunity, asking the rest of the questions, but it's also practicing the consultation itself. So like, let's say I had scheduled an appointment. Now, this wasn't one of the stories, but it has happened before where you schedule the appointment for everybody to be there. And then you show up and somebody's not there.
Right.
So most people, and myself included, would just go forward with the appointment. You're already there. But I really think like talking through this, the lessons here are your standard is decision makers need to be present at the appointment. And so you show up to the house and somebody's missing. So you say, oh, well, when will so-and-so be here? Oh, they can't make it actually.
I'm just going to relay all the information to them.
Being a professional means saying, my standards are that, I'm saying this in my head, my standards are that all people are here. Somebody's not here. I need to reschedule this.
Yes, 100%. Because all you're doing is wasting your time. You're wasting your time because especially as we start to get into a market where it might be a little bit more difficult to sell a house, right? And there's going to be people are going to be a little bit more stringent with what they get from their agents and want to get from their agents and stuff.
Well, imagine a pricing conversation in a market where prices are coming down in a lot of areas and things are cooling. The pricing conversation needs to be heard by all parties, not the telephone version from the husband or wife or whoever was there.
Well, I thought you said this. Well, I thought you said that. And it's like, well, you weren't even at the listing appointment. right?
It's cause for a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
And if you just go back to, I always reference like these other industries, but like if you walked into let's say a doctor's appointment, and we went to a doctor's appointment once where we didn't have like a piece of paper which is insane in today's day and age that you had to like print a piece of paper and bring it with you, but you did. And we didn't have the piece of paper, and they were like, okay, you'll have to reschedule this appointment.
Yeah.
And guess what? Rescheduling meant weeks of waiting. It wasn't like, I'll just come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
And yet you're like, okay, I guess that's what I have to do because that's the business practice. Now, we were frustrated because that was dumb technology. But you're doing it not just for your own benefit. You're doing it for theirs. And they're not going to get the full scope of what's going on in the market if the person who's there tries to interpret what you're saying as the professional. It's just not going to happen.
And that's how you sell it to them.
Yeah.
That's how you sell it. It's like this is for your benefit to have all parties here. This puts us all on the same page right at the beginning instead of a transfer of information. We're all in this together and we're all going to make this happen together and blah, blah, blah. And how, whatever script you want to use, have it nailed down. But you are helping them by doing it this way. And you have to remember that that's there. Yes. Are there elements of it that protect you? Yeah, of course. That's the other reason you're doing it, to not waste your time and all of that stuff. Of course, that's not what you say to the client because that's not what's important to them. You tell them what's important to them, which is we're going to all start off on the same page in the same place and work on this together. You're going to end up spending more time because you're going to have to drive back and then drive back again. It will cost you more time to reschedule. So I think that's also why when you're already there, you're like, well, I might as well do this. But really think through, is it best for them? Yeah, well, and not just that, but are you going to you're going to waste your time?
We got that.
No. I mean, waste your time. You said waste your time leaving and then coming back.
Yeah.
And stuff, like the amount of time it would take to reschedule and all of that stuff. And I just mean, if you do it right now, you're still wasting that time. It's the same. It's the same because you wasted that time. You don't get the listing appointment. Doing it right now was a waste of time too. Well,
and yes, I was saying we got that. Like, you could listen, you could take the listing just by meeting with the one person. The point though, is that the best practice as a business professional is to have all decision makers present. And instead of just using your sort of knee-jerk reaction of I'm already here, I'll just go ahead and do it. Be the professional and say, okay, let's find a time to reschedule so everybody can be here.
Yeah.
And you can still, like, if this was happening today, now I've got systems in place to like double verify that they're going to be there and that both parties, like, that we're making sure before I even show up.
You're also setting a precedent. Like you're letting them know this is that I have systems of the way that this is, and you can follow, you can hire me and then we will follow my systems, but we're not going to just make rash decisions one way, or you're kind of setting them up to be able to make any decision they want, however they want to do it, by allowing that to happen right from the beginning instead of setting. It's kind of like if you have a buyer consultate or a phone call from a buyer and they go, well, let's just meet at Starbucks. And you go, okay. So you're setting a precedent there that this isn't professional, that we'll do it however you want to do it.
Can we just pause there for a second?
Sure.
Because I think that what you're describing is there are people. I shouldn't say there are people. Everyone tests boundaries, even if it's unintentionally. Mm-hmm. They test boundaries of the relationship. And so when they say, oh, can we just meet at Starbucks instead? They're kind of testing to see how flexible you are. And will you kind of do what I need you to do? It's not necessarily intentionally like, I'm going to see if this person's going to bend to my every need.
They're not running experiments.
No, they're not running experiments. But the same thing happens, by the way, when you hire people. no one's intentionally testing boundaries, but when someone shows up late, they are a little bit testing the boundary of like, does it matter how late I am? It's not going on in their conscious brain usually.
But they know that if they show up 10 minutes late and no one says anything,
the next time they're running late, they're
just going to show up late.
Like they're not going to go out of their way to be on time because they don't think it's a priority. So the same thing applies to when you've got client appointments and they say, oh, well, hey, can we just change this to Sunday morning at 11 a.m.? And you're like, sure, no problem. They've just tested a little bit of a boundary on how quickly or flexible you are. And you just caved and said, yeah, I don't have anything going on. And I'll bend to whatever works for you. The more you say that, the more it is expected of you. But running a business requires that you have structure and systems. And so you can't have both. You can't be 100% available and 100% flexible and have a business that works for you. It just doesn't work.
Right.
So you have to push back when somebody says, well, I'd rather do it this way. Great. I understand. And I want to make it convenient for you. And I've been doing this a long time. And I know that the best case scenario is for us to meet together so that we can all go over all of your questions together. What I find is that most of the time, if I meet with just one party, there's questions that the other person has that they don't understand, or there's misunderstandings that happen because of that. And I want to prevent that for you.
Right. And so why do we do that? We do that because we want to hear the other person after Kathryn says that go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
And if the person doesn't, that's a red flag.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation.
It is a whole other conversation, but that's why you have systems in place, is to avoid wasting your time and avoid going on appointments that aren't going to amount to anything. All of a sudden you show up and the guy's like, I just popped a Valium, right? All right, let's take a quick break.
If you're enjoying this episode and want more ways to seek your best, not just in your business, but in how you spend your time and energy, there are a few easy places to connect with us beyond the podcast.
Over on YouTube, you can find us at Seeking the Best Pod. We share full episodes of the show, short coaching clips, reviews of real estate products, and tips on building a real estate business that actually works in real life. We post videos on Thursday mornings.
Or find us on Instagram at On Seeking the Best. There we post behind the scene moments, short practical tips, and some of the real unfiltered stuff that doesn't always make it into the show.
And if you're looking for episode supplements like the Candy Bag, where Kat posts more in-depth ideas that we discuss on the episodes, head to onseekingthebest.com. You can learn more about us, buy some Seeking the Best merch, or send us a question that we'll answer on the show.
However you connect with us, thanks for being here and keep seeking your best.
And we're back.
So I think the story of the missing other person, the other decision maker, and the Valium story all come back to one thing, is like, be professional enough to reschedule when things are not the way that you set them up to be.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's really the lesson there, is that it's okay to go to, whether it's on the phone to say, you realize that the other person's not going to be there, to say in that moment, okay, when can you both be present? And let's find a time for that. And here's why. Or if you show up, again, just being professional enough to know that, hey, this is not the way that we do things. And
when you get your S together, give me a call. Because that guy, like anybody who would do that, is like, do I want to work with this person anyway?
So bizarre. That definitely will go down in history as one of the most, the strangest of all the things. I do know he eventually sold that house. Obviously the person who came into the other listing appointment either had said, great, take that Valium, here's a pen. or they went on a day where he wasn't taking a Valium and did a normal consultation.
Yeah.
But I wish if I could go back in time, I would say, oh, I must have caught you at a bad time. Let's just find a new time where you're feeling better and, not taking Valium.
Yeah.
So I'll let you relax. And how about I come back tomorrow afternoon? And that is, by the way, like that could have won the appointment. Sure. That could have been like, oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
You're right.
I forgot you were coming.
Yeah.
Like whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those both kind of are the same lesson. Reschedule. Don't be afraid to reschedule. Don't be afraid to tell them how business works, you know? And then when I think back about the buyers not wanting to sign the agreement, because that, like I said, in the story, that is not the only time, right? Before we had buyer broker agreements, this is how things were done. And I know right now there's still people who are using like showing agreements and just saying like, hey, yeah, I'll just show you this one house, just sign the showing agreement. Yeah. You're doing the same thing. You feel like you're not, because you're getting them to sign one page. So if they bought that house, at least you're protected.
Those people that call on those signs and say, can you just show me this one house? They know how the system works. They've signed 6 of those agreements for that one house. They just keep calling until somebody shows them the property.
Yeah. There's people who definitely know what they're doing out there, and they're just trying to get into the one house. They don't care. They just want to do the one thing. Or they're just calling the listing agent. So in that story, I was the listing agent. Right. I still had an obligation to show the listing, right? But even in that moment, remember that it's on your terms. Mm-hmm. You don't need to go meet strangers at a property. You do not have to do that as a business professional. You can still set up a consultation at your office. In fact, for safety reasons, you shouldn't just go meet them, right? And so it's all about having these business standards in place and then actually following them. And don't be afraid to say no.
Your job is to show the house to qualified buyers, right? That's your responsibility to your sellers. If somebody calls on your house and they want to see it and they're a qualified buyer, my job is to make sure that they can get in there to see it. Well, if somebody just calls on the phone and say, I just want to see this one house, show it to me. You don't know if they're qualified. You don't know anything about them. You don't know what their plans are. You don't know so just going and opening the door for a random buyer because you think that's your job for your sellers, you're doing them a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing the whole industry a disservice because you're perpetuating this idea on top of that, and it's not safe to do either. Can
I say, so this isn't 100% related to the story. The lesson there was that have a consultation with people and make sure that you want to work with them before you go start showing them houses and stuff.
Right.
And it just happened to be my listing in that particular story. But the overall thing is set a consultation, make sure they understand how the working relationship works, what your communication is, all those things. All of that preparation and expectation setting prevents the future disappointments and miscommunications.
Yeah.
And you get buyers that want to see a property that is your listing, and what you were just describing about making sure that people are qualified, like your job is to show to qualified people. I remember this one woman who was so upset because remember,
they do get upset, don't they?
Yeah.
They do get upset. This happens a lot.
Like I remember this one particular situation where she wanted to see this house. It was in the same neighborhood that she currently lived in. And
Was it your listing?
It was my listing.
Okay.
And she wanted to see this house. And she was so upset because I wouldn't show it to her. But she wasn't a qualified buyer. She just wanted to see the house. Now, she told me that she would buy it if she liked it.
Right.
But she wasn't pre-approved. She wasn't willing to get pre-approved,
right.
et cetera, et cetera, et
Your
cetera.
job isn't to open the door for those people at your listings. That's not your job is to just remember they have to be qualified people. And the only way for you to know that they're qualified is if another agent, they're represented with another agent who has done their due diligence.
You hope they have.
Right. Or they come in and have a consultation with you, and you get them pre-approved. You see what their needs are, blah, blah, blah. Then you show them the house because they are qualified to buy it. So qualified doesn't just mean I have the funds. That's not what that means.
Well, even if she did, she didn't have proof of funds. Right, she didn't have anything. She just wanted to see the house in case she liked it more than her house. Then she would take the steps. Maybe. And so in that moment,
well, let me ask you, did she ever get into the house and buy it?
No, but hold on. I'm telling the story. I'm easily distracted. I won't be able to get back to the story. The point of this is that I said in that moment, and this is after like years of building the dialogues and the standards, is that's what open houses are for.
Right.
So
I've heard you say that before.
She was upset about not being able to go see it. And I said, well, we have an open house scheduled this weekend, and that's what open houses are for. They're for people who are not yet ready to get pre-approved. They're not qualified yet to buy a home, but they're interested. That's what open houses are for. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think that made her feel any better about it. And
did she show up to the open house?
I don't remember. I'm not sure that I held the open house. I think somebody else did, but she did not buy the house.
Right.
But my point in that is that's a business standard. Mm-hmm. People who see our listings have to be pre-qualified to buy a home, period. End of story. So I'm not going to bend that because that's what sellers are told, number one. And it was easier. So I think what happens sometimes is in that listing, I remember the sellers actually they lived there and they had a disabled child. Mm-hmm. And so it was easier in that moment to say no to somebody.
Right.
Because in the back of my mind, I knew how inconvenient it was for them to show their home.
Right.
But that doesn't need to be true for you to hold your standard. But I'm just bringing that up because I think sometimes
it's vacant.
We feel differently. We're like, oh, well, I'll just show them this one house. And like, because then maybe I can turn it into a buyer appointment. It's not going to inconvenience anybody. And we bend our rules because of a potential opportunity because it's easier sometimes to do that. So just imagine every time
rolling the dice.
Somebody wants to see a house that is not vacant, that it's not easy to show, that you are actually still inconveniencing the seller because now they believe that they have somebody who's interested in their house when in fact, you don't know anything about this person's situation.
And I know that we've got listeners. I know you guys are out there and you're hearing this and you're like, I always show houses to people when they call. Like I just have them sign the piece of paper because you never know. And it's like, you are, like I said, setting a precedent. You do not have a system in place. And the most important part of all of this is you don't know who those people are. This is going to be a dangerous job. And I hate that Kathryn goes out. I hate the idea that Kathryn would go out and meet somebody she doesn't know, she's never met, doesn't know their last name, never checked on it, and then just goes meets somebody, even if it might not even be the person that called on the phone at some random empty house at 7:00 at night, and I have no idea where she is.
Well, and I don't do that.
She doesn't do it. She doesn't.
But people do.
But people do, and I know that there's people listening that do that. Oh, there's our
That's our studio guest.
Our studio guests, Pistachio and Biscotti, making a noise back there, right at the most inopportune time, because I was trying to make that point. You guys have to stop doing that kind of stuff and stop setting the precedent, because what happens when you say, "Oh, I can't do that"? They go, "Oh, but I called another agent and they did it," right? Which means that you guys are out there doing that. And we tried to put a stop to it. Well, we didn't try to, but it's like there's been things put in place for agreements to be signed. You guys should be taking advantage of that and setting the tone for how this is going to work to people who think they can take advantage of you.
So let's talk about that last story that I told, the floor presentation.
This one was also, this one just made me mad. When this happened,
it was really disrespectful.
It's so disrespectful.
It really was. And what, again, in that moment,
people are so weird.
People are so weird. I think so. Going back, what would I do differently in that moment is I would say, actually, I'm going to need to sit at a table or a counter in order to do this presentation. Oh, that's right. There was a dining room table in the other room. Can we head back that way?
Yeah.
Let's head back that way. And if they were like, no, we're going to sit in here, I'd be like, well, as you can see, there's nowhere for me to sit and present. So I'd really like to go in the other room so I can give you the proper presentation. I think you'll find that it will be beneficial for us to sit in there.
If those people do that, if they were to say that, it's like they are telling you who they are. Mm-hmm. This is another red flag, right? It's like, do you really want to be dealing with these people through the process, or do you want to cut your losses and get the hell out of there?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then, so like I said, they had told me in advance they were going to meet with like 8 people.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that part.
Yeah. It just happens to be the same people. Right. And what would I do differently now? Because like, lesson learned, your chances 1 out of 8. Well, guess what? That's a lot worse than 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 2.
Yeah.
I did not know those people. I don't remember the lead source. I really don't. But
look, buyers can't even differentiate between 8 houses that they saw. How is a seller going to differentiate between 8 agents? Did they have? Let me ask you, if you might not remember this. Were they writing anything down?
Oh, no.
Right. So what were they going off of? Vibes?
So, which the vibes of me sitting on the floor.
Getting covered in dog hair. But I'm sure you were wearing black pants and a blazer. So I think, like, I try to think, what would I do differently with the 8 people? So like today, Kathryn today would say, wow, that is a lot of people. Why don't we do this? If you get to number 6 or 7 and you still don't feel like you've got the right person, give me a call and I'll come out and we'll talk. Yeah.
Like, I think I really would, but I am in a position now of where I don't feel like
I'm not going to dance for you.
Like, yeah, it's not that I don't need a new listing. You can never have enough leads. You can never have enough if you want to grow. Right. Mm-hmm. But I also value my time so much today that I'm like, that's a lot of prep. Like, I take this seriously. It's a lot of preparation, and I don't think I want to take those odds, especially because
the person who wants to see 8 people,
you're just not even.
Well, you can't say, well, look, I'm really good at these listing presentations. I know what I'm doing. I've got 20 years experience. I can go in there and I'll give the best presentation that anybody has ever seen. You can't. The person who wants to see 8 people are not playing in the same ballpark that you are. Mm-hmm. Right. So your normal thing isn't going to work because they're already weird.
Well, what happens in that 1 in 8 is they're looking for somebody who will tell them their house is worth more than it is, or that they'll do it for less money. Right. It's one of those things.
Or
Otherwise,
both.
You wouldn't interview that many people.
Right. What do you
if you're really just looking for the best agent, like, you do your online research, you narrow it down yourself.
Yeah.
So I would definitely decline it today. At the time, it was also, I didn't tell this part, but it was also like over $1 million listing. Mm-hmm. And so, again, we get excited and it's like, okay, well, it's 1 out of 8. It's still better than 0. Right. But it definitely was a red flag that, hey, this is going to not go well because they're looking for something that they can't, like, they don't know what they want or something. And I haven't looked at it recently or anything, but I do remember like whoever did end up taking the listing, like it didn't sell.
Yeah.
But that goes back to, they probably wanted more for the house than it was worth. And so whatever was coming out of my mouth, question didn't matter.
Yeah.
Until they heard the price that they wanted.
Right.
But lessons learned, I probably could have better identified what it was they were looking for and why they were interviewing 8 if I'd asked better questions in the pre-qualification.
True.
And now,
True. Well, yeah, that's 100%, because they would have said that they would have led on one way or another. You would have been able to guide them in a way to where they would have said, well, we need to get X out of this house or we can't sell it.
Yeah.
Or
one
whatever.
of the questions that I ask now is, I'm just curious, what do you think your home is worth in today's market? And then if they say, well, that's why I want you to come out and you tell me, you're the professional. In theory, good answer, right? And at the same time, I don't believe you. So I'm not saying I would say that to them. I'm just saying, like, people will say that, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't really believe that you want my advice.
You're gonna tell me that you've decided you want to sell the house and you don't have any idea what you think the house is worth.
So then you actually say, oh no, of course, and I'm going to bring comparables, and we're going to go over all of the market data. I'm just kind of curious, like, you think it's worth, and then you give them some sort of range that like you kind of have already looked at it, right? So you say, let's say it's a $500,000 to $600,000 property. You're like, so yeah, I totally understand. I'm going to bring comparables. We're going to go through market data to choose a strategic range of value. But I'm just curious, is it closer to like 500 or like 600? What do you think? And then usually at that point they'll say,
right.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely more like 600.
Yeah, because you gave them a choice.
And then in that moment, like back to this story of these 8 people, if I had done that, if I'd had that in my dialogue, pre-qualification script, I would have said that, and they would have said, oh yeah, no, it's like 1.5. And I would have said, oof.
Right. Yeah.
And I might have paused and thought, 8 people, they want more than it's worth.
Yeah, it's not worth my time. All the effort I have to put into the listing appointment, the amount of time that it's going to take me to do that when I could be lead genning.
Well, that's the thing. We often, it's always, all these lessons are about either not having a standard. And so I'm just like, okay, go, because it's an opportunity, or finally setting some standards and then breaking them the minute that the opportunity arises, but it's opportunity. We will say yes to everything instead of saying no to things that, like, don't make sense. Yeah. But you allow it to happen anyways. Yeah. And I think back and really that's the bigger lessons is like, what could I have achieved through all of the wasted time, the frustrating appointments, all of those, because those are 4 stories of many, many more. Right. Yeah. And what would have happened if instead of saying yes to them just because they existed, I said no to a few of them that really didn't make sense through proper qualification, and instead went out and found a different opportunity? What would life look like today? Right. Like, that's truly a question that gets asked. But all of these things, like all of these stories of appointment failures all tie back to there wasn't a professional environment. There wasn't proper pre-qualification of some kind, which led to this poor performance, truly. Like, do you think I was my best sitting on the ground? No. And I remember I was wearing heels, like, ladies, right. If you're listening, when you're sitting on the ground, if you've ever sat down in heels, like, what do you do with those things? Yeah. And also I'm tall, so I have like these big legs. I'm like, what am I doing with these things? I couldn't sit like Indian style.
What you could have said is, I think I prefer sitting in one of the chairs. Do one of you guys want to sit on the floor?
That's what Pat would have said in the moment. But yes, so what I do differently now is all about sticking to my standards, always improving them too. Like saying no more often than saying yes, because I believe that I have value and I don't need to say yes to every single person who gives me an opportunity just because it's there. And just be a business professional. it's okay to tell people this is how it's going to work. I was in sort of preparation of thinking about this. I was thinking about like, I know so I always do buyer consultations in the office, and I have for many years, way before the NAR lawsuit.
Oh yeah, for years and years before.
And years and years. And I have a story about when that started and why and everything, or when I started using loyalty agreements. I think I was still even doing buyer consultations before that situation. But I always did that because it made sense to me. Like, how am I going to help you if I don't know anything about you? I'm not just going to go meet you here and there and like whatever. But I bent some rules sometimes and made those mistakes. But listing consultations, so buyer consultations, I'm in office. So my conversion rate on buyer consultations is like through the roof.
Yeah, it's like 90,
I don't even know.
It's like 99.8%.
I can think of one person in my 20-year career who hasn't signed a buyer broker agreement with me if I've met with them.
Right.
One. Through the roof. And so I was thinking about that. Because with listing consultations, we kind of feel this obligation to go to the person's house. Because I feel like I need to see it. I really probably don't, but I feel like I do.
They feel like you need to see it.
And everybody else does that. So like if you're the one person who didn't,
I don't need to see it.
I don't need to see it. Let's jump on Zoom. I'll tell you all about what you know.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you need to go there.
For sure.
So I was just looking up though, like for sports teams. Yes, I'm going to give a sports analogy.
Oh no.
I was like, I wonder what the percentages of wins with the home field advantage.
Oh, right.
And so I looked up the stat, and on average, it's 50 to 70% more games won, like with the home field advantage. And it varies depending on the industry or sports category.
Yeah.
But can you imagine? So like you can just increase your results by having the home field advantage. Well, what does that mean in a listing appointment? I was thinking about this. Like it means setting it up professionally. Like, so the home field advantage though, is you telling them right when you get there, great, where's your table?
How's it going to,
here's what's going to happen.
Your home field advantage is you controlling how this is going to work.
You control the environment. This is the best you can do. And so that's one of the reasons that the home field advantage works for sports teams is it's not just there's other things like reduced travel fatigue, blah, 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 blah. But the main thing is that they're familiar with the venue. Well, we can't be familiar with every person's house. So we have to set up our own environment that works. So what is that? It's like I stop at the door first, like a few minutes before the time. I knock on the door. I say the same dialogue to them. I tell them, great, thank you for having me. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to talk to you about this. Where's a table? Let's sit down. You sit down, you bring out, you do the same steps. That's the only way you can create the professional environment, and the same environment is repeating the steps over and over again. And the minute somebody tries to take you off track, you bring them back in.
And by the way, when the next agent comes in and doesn't have any of those things, you're the one that they say was very professional, right? You're the one that has their stuff together. That's what they remember, because you kept everything on track, and you knew how you wanted this to go, and it went that way, versus letting them, and then you know those agents out there that just love to talk, and they're going to tell stories about when their kids were in high school too. Oh, your kids go to, my kids go to blah, 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 blah. And they what they think they're doing is building rapport. But when you go in like a surgical strike team and hit all the points and keep everyone on track and lay it all out, that's what they remember. And
let me just tag on to that.
That's who you want to work with, are the ones who appreciate it.
I will also say, like, I do not think that like a 2-3 hour appointment, nobody wants that. And I mean the clients, they do not want that. So by you having structure, you do show up more professionally when you're guiding the appointment. But also when you say, where this is going to be a 45-minute appointment.
Kathryn does this for buyers too.
This is going to be a 45-minute appointment, and we're going to cover these things. And then you do what you said you were going to do, and you get out of their house. Trust me, they're going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want to be sitting there for 2 or 3 hours. Even if you guys are connecting on all of the things, like, you can both be You can both be cordial. And what I was going to say is you can both build rapport and stick to your structure for an appointment simultaneously. Yeah. It does not have to be either or. Buyers and sellers want you to save them time. And I also think that it's valuable to tell them that's what you're doing. And one of the scripts, this is not something that I wrote, but I use it. And I think it works really well because I'm also very conscious of time with people and for myself. But it's a Diana Kokoska script straight out of Bold. But I have a great deal of respect for your time. It's just that part at the very beginning of the consultation. So we're going to cover 3 things. And then you tell them what you're going to cover. And then that's what you do at the end of the appointment. They're like, wow, they said they were going to do this. They did this. You make it really easy for them to want to work with you when you actually show up to the appointment as a professional and keep things on track.
Yeah, for sure.
Because by the way, like this is the other thing, the other parties, they don't really know what's supposed to be talked about in an appointment other than price. They don't know, except if they've already met with other agents. So imagine you go on an appointment and somebody else has already met with them that has structure. And you go in and you're just like chit-chatting and like, great, yeah, do you want to work together?
I thought they really liked me. I don't know why I didn't get the appointment.
Yes, that's my point exactly. So you leave and then you're like, wow, I really thought we connected. I'm surprised I didn't get that.
No, there's a reason. Kathryn went in before you.
I might have been in before you. Or somebody with a structure that said, I know what I'm doing and this is how everything's going to be handled is with precision.
Right.
So that you get what you want in the time that I promised. It's that simple.
Right.
I'm on a rant.
I know.
Make it simple. Your best move that you can use. Not a grind. It's a tip that saves you time. Your best move.
All right, it's time for this week's best move. One simple, smart thing to focus on this week. Not a giant to-do list, not something that takes hours, just one move that actually helps move your business forward. And this week, we're going to plan proactive seller updates. You'll build trust even when the market feels slow.
That was a mouthful. Plan proactive seller updates.
Yep.
What does that mean? That means setting a specific day and time to update them before they're going to ask you questions.
Right.
So, I do comprehensive updates to sellers on Wednesdays. And so they know they're going to get that update. I'm thinking about switching up the day of the week though, because I find that,
but isn't Wednesday enough time to get the feedback?
Yes. I mean, it's on Wednesday for a reason, but so I find that over the weekend, stuff has happened, right? Like usually that's when showings are happening, open houses and stuff. So waiting till Wednesday kind of leaves too many days for them to start building up questions. So just having a little bit earlier in the week, I think would be helpful. Yeah. But point is, whatever it is, making sure they know and then delivering on that. So planning proactive updates.
Right. And proactive
when
means,
will you do that?
Right. And proactive means that they know when that is, right? So that they're not in the dark, or you get 3 listings and all of a sudden the phone is ringing all week long with what's going on with this? What's going on with that? If you plan it out and tell them when they will be updated, they won't call you all the time. I think too, like I said, I do comprehensive email updates. It doesn't have to be complicated like that though. It could simply be a phone call on, I'm going to touch base with you on Fridays between 2 and 4 every week and give you a call to touch base on how things are going. For sure. And then just do what you said. Yeah, 100%. That makes, and they'll appreciate that too, on top of everything. It may save you time and they'll appreciate it. So win-win. Small win. Kathryn, you got a small win this week? Yes. So I had some buyers in from out of town, and we looked at properties for 2 different time blocks. And then they were like, that we had scheduled 3 different time blocks while they were in town. Mm-hmm. And in the second time block, they're like, you know what? We don't really think you need to show us any more of the properties. We think we're going to make a decision. That is awesome. We were talking about people you want to work with. The people who are like, no, I like this one. We're good. We don't have to go and see anything else.
I love it. And it's not just like the selfish reason of
they know
cool.
they know what they want.
I appreciate decisive people. I do.
Yeah.
I think
they didn't want to waste your time.
And I appreciate that too, but it's
nice.
really more
They're
about just
a
like
nice person.
Now listen, we still have to get the offer accepted,
Sure.
then you got to get through, and there's still a lot of work, and it might not, you never know that it's going to work out, but I appreciate decisions that this like laboring over every thought has kind of worn on me over the last few months with some other people. And so I really appreciate somebody saying, nope, I like it. I don't need to see the others because this feels good. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's great.
So maybe it's a big win, but I'll let you know if it's a big win if the offer gets accepted.
Right. And my small win is I washed my Jeep and for the first time ever in my entire life, I parked in a garage. Our garage is mostly finished enough to pull a car into it.
It's pretty exciting.
And I've never had a garage my whole life, never in a rental, never in a house we've owned. This is my first one. And the idea that I could wash my Jeep and then park it in there and it not get filthy dirty the next day from our sand driveway that we used to have.
It wasn't really sand.
No,
but
it was mulch. It was mulch. That's awesome. I love it.
Very nice.
I love that it's in there being protected from the sun. Now, if you guys most people don't have Jeeps, but they are covered in black plastic that just bleaches out. So the fact that it's being protected in there, and someday when we get another month from now, when we get those hailstorms at 4:00, to know that the car is parked in a place where it's protected and stuff is just, it's a nice exhale to be able to have that and stuff.
It's super exciting. We did have to remind each other though, like, hey, don't close the garage door and just sit in the car.
Oh yeah. I heard Kathryn come home the other day and she always does this. She parks the car and then she pulls out her phone and she sends her last 3 text messages or an email or something like that. And I heard the garage door open and then she didn't come in and she didn't come in. And I was like, oh no, is she just sitting out there in a running car with the garage door closed?
I wasn't.
She wasn't.
But also I had the same thought. I was like, oh yeah, no, you can't do that.
So yeah, small win, right? Hey guys, for episode extras like the candy bag, ask us questions, or anything else we mentioned today, you can find it all at onseekingthebest.com. And for Kat and myself, thanks for listening, and we'll figure this all out next week.
Bye.
Don't give up, step by step, nothing less. This is how I seek the best.
This has been a Think, Live, Be production.